Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and the controversy for the Game Awards has hit insane heights. This is probably the most backlash that I've seen for the Game Awards and the nominees that they've chosen pretty much since it was first created, because the more you look into it, you just have to kind of wonder what the panelists were actually thinking. The panel is supposed to be made up of like 100 plus people from the media, but there's some very, very strange omissions and even inclusions at times that makes them look kind of clueless. It's actually gotten so bad, though, that Xbox tax has been trending on Twitter, and I don't even know if that's necessarily the worst of it, but that is something that I want to talk about today. Before we get started, though, do go and make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way, every time I post a new video, which is every Monday through Friday, it'll be delivered directly to your device. It makes it just a little bit easier to stay up to date, so don't forget to hit those buttons. But with that said, let's just go and jump right into the video, starting off with a possible new incoming announcement for Dragon's Dogma 2. I know there's a lot of excitement for this game. It looks absolutely fantastic so far, and the more that we've heard about it, the better it sounds. I'm hoping this time the series will actually get the recognition that it truly deserves. But for the time being, we are waiting for one very specific detail: its release date. Well, it's been spotted online that it's recently been rated over in Saudi Arabia, and this is something that we've seen time and time again. In fact, you all have heard me repeat this line over and over on this channel, and I'll go and say it again here because it keeps being true. See, basically, when we start to see these ratings pop up, a lot of times that does indicate some type of incoming release date announcement. And hey, we do have the Game Awards right around the corner. That would be a pretty good place to announce something like this. And, you know, despite the controversy regarding their nominations, we can at the very least always expect a fun showcase with lots and lots of reveals, possibly including Dragon's Dogma 2. So hopefully we'll get an update there, but I guess we'll see. Now, speaking of announcements, though, Larian Studios is teasing a very busy week. That is their words, not mine. They posted this up over on Twitter where they said, "We're extremely proud that Baldur's Gate 3 has been nominated in the following categories." And yeah, they have had several nominations. Well deserved, by the way. But then they said this: "Xbox fans and fans of physical media, watch this space for a formal announcement. It's going to be a busy week." So yeah, it sounds like we're going to have some big and anticipated news this week. I'll cover it as soon as it happens, but I think the very welcome news here is really for physical media. I mean, we already knew that an Xbox version was coming at some point in 2023 based on what they've repeatedly told us, so its announcement isn't necessarily overly surprising, but a physical version? That is a nice surprise here. I'm a physical collector myself, and to see a game of this high quality not have a physical release, it is a bit disappointing. I can say the same thing for Alan Wake 2. I would have loved to have had that game on a physical disc, but at the very least, we might actually get one for Baldur's Gate 3 sometime here soon. I think the only thing is, though, is that I do want to see how they're going to handle a physical edition. Who are they going to partner up with? Is this going to be a limited run game? Is I Am 8-Bit going to take control, or is it going to be somebody else? I mean, I guess we'll see soon enough. Okay, so let's go and get to the Game Awards, though. We actually talked a lot about this yesterday, but I mean, I was really just focusing on the actual Game of the Year nomination. But the thing is, the controversy has kind of exploded online pretty much since then, and we really need to dive into this whole thing to understand why. I mean, right away, of course, there is the Game of the Year nominees, and you can see them here. It includes Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Mario Wonder, and of course, you have Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Now, I don't hate this list, nor do I love them. I might make some of my own personal changes, but that's just my own opinion. But I think it's an okay list overall until we talk about Resident Evil 4. That's kind of the big problem that a lot of people are having. At the end of the day, this is a remake of a game that was originally made in 2005, and for such a stacked year, it can be argued that a brand new game should have taken priority, which is something that I do agree with. I mean, I think on one side, Resident Evil 4 is a flat-out amazing game. It is one of my personal favorite games this year. It's an all-time great game.
but that is the thing. It isn't an all-time great because it was made originally back in 2005. So I think, and this is just my own opinion, but I think that they should have had a separate nomination for remakes and remasters. I mean, there's enough remakes and remasters to have a category like this. They could have easily made a list that included Metroid Prime, you have Star Ocean, The Second Story R, there's Quake 2, you have the Dead Space remake, and of course you have Resident Evil 4 as well. That could have been a fun category, and that could have also saved an extra spot for a 6th brand new game. And I mean, there's no shortage of choices. You have Lies of P, there's Hi-Fi Rush, there's Starfield, Hogwarts Legacy, which was weirdly completely absent from the showcase. That's a huge game to completely dismiss. Maybe because the controversy that surrounds it. I don't know. More questions that surrounds the Game Awards. But then there was also Armored Core 6, and the list just kind of goes on and on and on. Again, there was no shortage on brand new games that released in 2023. Let me go and be clear about something, though, because I saw this a lot in my comments yesterday. A lot of people will take this video as me lobbying for Starfield as the game of the year, when I'm really not. I will post my top 15 games in the future. I will have a video for that. I haven't even really narrowed everything down yet, and truthfully, I don't even know if Starfield will be in my top 6. We'll see. But my entire point with the Game of the Year nominations is that there was a lot of brand new games that was more than worthy of a nomination. That's kind of the issue right now. So that was the first and most obvious bizarre decision that they made, in my opinion. But okay, we'll go ahead and move on from that. The next problem that fans have, though, is with the RPG of the Year, which has a huge omission that, again, arguably has a better claim to a nomination than some of these other titles. Now, I personally like all 5 of these games. Baldur's Gate 3 definitely deserves a spot in this list. You have Final Fantasy 16, which you all know by this point. I do love this game. But there is a question if this actually deserves to be on the RPG list when it's really more of an action game. So there can be some discussions there. I'll leave all of that up to you. Then you have Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and lastly, Starfield. You know what's missing here, though? A game that is undoubtedly an RPG and is most certainly one of this year's best RPGs, being Octopath Traveler 2. Where is this game, and why is the Game Awards completely ignoring it? I mean, did the chosen panelist in this case just not play this game or something? I mean, it's hard to believe that it got 0 nominations at all, and you can make a very good argument that it is more deserving of an RPG spot specifically than some of these other games, which you can say might be more of a different genre than an actual RPG. That is something that I would love to know, though. This was pointed out by David Jaffe, the former God of War director, but we don't even know if all of the panelists have even played all of these games. So let's go and hypothetically say that 80% of them have played Final Fantasy 16. Of course, this is a big AAA game that a lot of people have played, but then only 20% of them played Octopath Traveler 2. Well, in that case, clearly Final Fantasy 16 would have an unfair advantage. It would no longer be a question of which game is the best, but instead it would be about which game was the most played among these panelists. Do you see the problem with that? For that matter, though, I mean, where's Diablo 4? That is actually a big-time RPG that's also missing from this list. But anyways, let's go and continue on, because this is where things really took a turn, and that's with the independent nominations. Now, at first glance, when you see this list, it might not necessarily look like a problem. You have Cocoon, Dave the Diver, you have Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. However, they actually got corrected by Twitter Notes, which isn't exactly a great look for a prestigious ceremony, but it has been pointed out that Dave the Diver is not actually an independent title. Dave the Diver is actually instead made by Mint Rocket, who is owned by Nexon, a big-time publisher. In fact, the Nexon president was even quoted as saying it may look like an indie, but it's not necessarily so. So based on what the Game Awards is doing here, are we now nominating games that looks like independent games, or are we instead going by the definition of what an independent game, actually is? So people are kind of looking at this nomination and they're wondering why this made it over something like Pizza Tower when that is actually an independent title. People love that game, and it could have been a fun nomination. You know what hasn't been fun this year, though, is Destiny 2's situation. This game has not been performing all that well. There's actually been some questions about how they're treating this game as a whole, and Bungie even let go of 8% of their staff, including their social media managers. Despite all that, though, somehow, in some way, Destiny 2 was nominated for the best community support. Now, why exactly was it voted in? I don't think that we'll ever completely know. I guess they just kind of felt that it was worthy. Who knows? Then there was this guy, Remy, who was nominated for Coach of the Year. The only problem with this, though, is that he wasn't actually a coach, and he corrected them online by saying, "Let's be serious for 2 minutes. I wasn't even a coach this year. Take me off the list." I mean, you look at something like that, and you just have to kind of wonder, how did they come up with these nominations? It actually makes them look absolutely clueless in some cases, and it's almost like they just threw a dart at the dartboard, or they were just picking people's names out of a hat. I mean, this is supposed to be a prestigious award ceremony, but this is what I was saying yesterday. The Game Awards is not the be-all, end-all ceremony that a lot of people make it out to be. It's almost like we're giving this unknown group of media too much power to dictate what they view as the best, which doesn't always necessarily align with how the community actually feels. And in fact, that is a big thing that we're starting to see online. There is a very real distrust between the community and the media right now, especially when it comes to Xbox games. This has been a growing frustration for years, but I think that it's starting to erupt online. There are some major questions in how the media treats Xbox, to the point the Xbox tax was trending on Twitter yesterday after the nominees were announced. Xbox tax being the idea that the media treats Xbox games differently, that they might rate their games lower just because they were made by Xbox, or just the media bashing them, whereas they tend to stay a little bit more quiet when similar decisions are made elsewhere. So the fact that Xbox tax was trending online yesterday after the nominees were announced, I think that kind of tells you everything that you need to know. The community no longer feels like they can trust the media to be objective when it comes to Xbox games. I actually put up a poll on Twitter just to see how people feel, and as of this recording, around 70% of the voters believes that there is indeed an Xbox tax. You're more than welcome to vote yourself. Follow me on Twitter. That poll will be up for 7 days. I'll go and drop a link in the comments below. So is there actually an Xbox tax? Because it definitely seems like there's a belief that there is, and I think for me, I can't sit here and say that there's a definitive answer for this question. I can really only give you my opinion, and with that, I will say for me personally that I've had my suspicions for a very long time. I believe that there is a negative stigma that Xbox carries, especially from the Xbox One generation, where anti-Xbox topics drove a lot of traffic to these websites, and pretty much since then, it does feel like the Xbox brand is treated differently than every other platform maker. Now, that's not to say that every outlet bashes everything Xbox related, but I would be hard-pressed to say every journalist acts out of good intentions when it comes to Xbox-related topics. I mean, I look at games like Quantum Break last generation, and I genuinely wonder if that released as a PlayStation exclusive instead, would it have reviewed better? Also, you could take a look at something like Starfield, and if that game would have released as a multi-platform game, if it wouldn't have been bought out by Xbox, would it have faced the same amount of scrutiny and discourse that we saw online? And if you have to even second-guess that, that's a problem. We should not have to second-guess this at all, because games should be rated based on how good they are and not because of what platform they're on. At the end of the day, though, everybody's going to view this topic differently, but I don't mind people talking about it, because I think it's a topic that needs to be discussed. If this is a widespread concern that fans have, then we need to voice it and let it be known. So I am genuinely curious to see how widespread this belief is. So go and let me know what you think in the comments below. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, where I asked you all, do you think a remake should qualify for Game of the Year? And yeah, that controversy is legitimate. 73% of you voted no, and I mean, I keep saying it, Resident Evil 4 is an amazing game. I'm not trying to take anything away from Resident Evil 4. It's an all-time great for a very good reason, but considering there's only 6 nominations, to have it take that number 6 spot over all of these other games, brand new games made in 2023, it just feels a little bit off. I still firmly believe what they should have done is they should have made a remake/remaster category, and I think that would have been a lot of fun, but instead we got categories like best community support, which who knows how they even decide on categories like that. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.